Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. In today's video, we'll be talking about our 2025 recruiting board. We'll also be talking about On3's updated top 300. There's been some movement with some players that are already committed to our Volunteers. We'll go through and talk about what that movement has been, and we'll see what could possibly happen if we add the players that we are expecting to in the 2025 class. As always, y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so let's start off with On3's updated top 300. There's a lot of movement with this one. Let's start off with where our national ranking is currently after the update. We're 15th, and before we were at 13th, and we are 9th in the ACC. Before we were at 7th, and our average overall player rating currently sits at a 90.08. Before it was at a 90.13. So everything right there is going backwards. I think y'all already know how this thing is about to go. Up at the top, the headliner of this class is GMAC, okay? He was a 5-star quarterback. Right now, okay, nationally, he's sitting at number 25. Now, I'm talking about nationally according to the On3 industry rankings. What that does is it encompasses 247sports.com, rivals.com, and ESPN.com, along with On3. Everything that's been changed today is coming strictly from On3. But we can see right here, he went from a 16 to a 25 according to the industry ratings just because of how much he dropped with On3's individual rankings. He went from a 17 to currently sitting at a 74 nationally. What does that mean? How did this happen? I'll tell you exactly what it means and how it happened. These sites want for these players to compete in a lot of this off-season stuff, over the summer stuff, on like a national stage and scale and all that. And GMAC has not done that, right? I mean, it kind of sounded like towards the end of last season, they had already started to talk about, well, he doesn't look good here, doesn't look good there. So he has an injury and he does not want to compete in one of these big events. So they dock him for it, right? Like they're dropping him down. Let me say this for all of you stargazers out there as volunteer fans, take this stuff with a grain of salt. This is not the end all be all. That's why we break down these players' film on this channel. We're going to keep it real with you, okay? Like, we're not going to sit here and lie to you. We'll tell you how good these players are. GMAC is a stud. He's a 5-star player, and he still has all of this season, along with everyone else, to improve their player ratings. But I'll tell you right here, right now, it's disgusting that he drops down this much, just from an off season. That's crazy because all the off season stuff, that's not real football, right? Like anybody can look good in a combine setting, in a camp setting, but put the pads on up under the lights when all the bullets are flying at you. How do you perform there? That should tell you a lot. GMAC over there at Brentwood, his offensive line wasn't great last season, so he's pretty much running for his life all the time. But you look at what he did on the film, taking into account how bad that offensive line was. And I'm not saying that to try to knock these young men, but it just is what it is, okay? Hopefully the offensive line has been improved, heading into the 2024 season, and he'll be able to show and prove all these scouts and analysts wrong right here at On3. Now, the next player is going to be Doug Utu. So Utu was 53 nationally. Now, again, whenever we start off, we're going to be talking about the ratings over here to the left. That is, again, the On3 industry ratings, which encompasses everyone else. So he was at a 53. He actually somehow, for some reason, drops down to 54. That's a joke, okay? We went through his film breakdown. That was from a single game versus a very good team. That's great competition. That video was only, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 minutes long, however long it was. It could have been like double that. I just chose a few select plays, but every single play out there could have been a highlight. I could have put it in there, but I just got, I shortened it up for the sake of y'all as viewers. But he also drops down in the On3. Well, he actually didn't even drop. He actually stayed the same in On3's ratings from a 280 to a 280. And I don't know exactly how he moved down nationally. Obviously, someone had moved up, but that's a joke. I would say that by the end of the season, he should be going up, right? Like, let's see what he does in his senior year. I'm already kind of getting frustrated and pissed off. Now, right here, we have Marion Dye, okay? Currently, he's rated as number 121 overall with On3's industry rating. And before, he was at a 123. So he actually moved up 2 spots right there. But if you look at, how he was rated as with On3's individual ratings, he went from a 40 to a 36 nationally. So that's good. He actually moved up. And let's take a look right here at Ethan Utley. He went from a 146 in the industry ratings to a 149. And then he went from a 194 with On3's ratings to a 196. How he drops down, I could not tell you. Again, somebody moved up, one of their favorites. It was one of their guys. Now, on to Radarius Jackson, 4-star wide receiver. He went from a 199 to a 198, only 1 spot. That's kind of laughable, but he actually dropped down with On3's individual ratings from a 79 to an 83. Mind blowing, right? Like I just do not get it. Let's talk about Jaden Lofton. Okay, he went from a 321 to a 232 overall. He also went from not being rated with On3 to being 157. So that says a lot. Obviously, he's a really good player. I think that all these guys that we just talked about are great players, but that's good. At least they kind of recognized one of our guys and they kind of bumped him up some. The next one's going to be Nick Moore. He was a 318 nationally. Now he's a 312 nationally. And with On3, he went from a 250 to a 211. So that's good that he's also moving up. And let's talk about Jack Van Dorsalier, 4-star tight end. He went from a 269 to a 316. And then he went from being 285 with On3 to not being rated at all. Again, how it happened, just could not tell you, okay? I mean, there's a whole lot of politics that goes into this stuff. The next is going to be 3-star safety, Sidney Walton, went from a 434 to a 438. Dropped, okay? He wasn't rated before. He's not rated now. And the next player is going to be Tony Agumuro. He went from a 435 to a 439. Again, we watched this film. We broke it down. Pretty much all these guys, right? I mean, you could tell that they are underrated. How they keep on dropping, it's politics. I'm telling y'all. And so he wasn't rated before. As far as On3's individual, their just personal website ratings, and he's not rated now. The next player is going to be Justin Baker, who went from a 581 to a 584. Wasn't rated before with On3. Now he's still not rated. I think that, that for sure is a joke. Let me pull that up just to make sure that everyone can see it. And the next player is going to be Dylan Lewis. Dylan Lewis went from 528 to 566. Wasn't rated with On3 before. He is not rated now. And let's scroll up just a taste. Trey Poteet went from a 597 to a 599. Was not rated before with On3. He's not rated now. And then next, we have Joakim Dotson. Went from a 607 to a 610. Wasn't rated before with On3. He is not rated now. So, I mean, obviously, y'all can kind of see how the trend is looking. Charles House, this is the guy that we expected to make leaps and bounds. I mean, he should have went up a lot. He actually goes backwards, goes from a 613 to a 614, and he stays at the exact same spot. According to On3, 284. He's still at 284. Just, it's just pretty laughable. Now, we have Tyler Redmond, and he went from a 724 to a 728. So he also dropped down 4 spots. Was not rated before, is not rated now. I want to kind of talk about Tyler Redmond here for just a second. Let's talk about him playing in the best league in all of high school football on the face of this planet. There are not any more Power 5 players. There are no more NFL players per capita than what he's seeing inside of this league. He's balled out on every single level, every single stage, especially in the state championship game. And for some reason, he's still a 3-star. He's actually our lowest rated player. That's a joke. He's 6'3". He could play corner. He could play star. He could play safety. I like him a lot more corner just because of his length and his skill set. He has great feet. He has great hips. He gets in and out of his breaks well, and he's very willing to come up and make tackles. And I don't, want to have to go too far off on this, but I just want to kind of point him out. I can highlight him because I did coach him when he was 6 years old. Been the same type of player. After practice, what was he doing? He was doing extra work. He was putting in that extra work. That's the cloth that he's cut from. How is he not only coming into this, season, this cycle, rated too low, but then you drop him down even more? A lot of these people up here at On3 and really all these other sites, they're getting this stuff wrong. The thing about it is it's going to make our staff look really good as far as going out and identifying talent on the highest level and then being able to go out and, get these guys to play on the highest level. I am extremely frustrated. Again, I take this stuff with a grain of salt, but it makes me angry because these players put so much work, so much time, so much effort. Their families do as well to make them better. And, it's going to be great for us because hopefully they come in with a chip on their shoulder and they play like it. But at the same time, you want for these young men to get their flowers. And I think that they do deserve them. But I'll just say this, have a chip on y'all's shoulder if you feel like you went down or whatever. If you're not highly rated enough, go out in your senior season and prove the whole doggone world wrong. And man, look, once y'all get up on campus, let's focus on winning these national titles and prove everyone wrong again. All right. That's it for that. Let's go ahead and move. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and switch gears to our recruiting board for 2025. All right, so let's talk about our big board. It says up at the top as of July the 3rd, but really nothing has changed outside of the fact that Jacoby Ward has committed to Auburn. I probably should have taken him off And I would also say that maybe Shakai Mills-Knight, maybe I could have taken him off too because he's down to Auburn and Ole Miss. I just don't really see Tennessee being a real threat in this one, but you never know what's going to happen at the end of the day. But outside of that, this is going to be up to date. Now, let's start off with our expected commits in David Sanders right up here at the top. He did set an announcement date of August the 17th. His final four is us, Ohio State, UGA, and Nebraska. Now, my nephew Bray, who's on this channel sometimes, said that David Sanders' uncle is an offensive line coach for Nebraska. So I actually give them a slight edge over UGA. I put them in the number 3 spot, but really this battle is down between us and Ohio State. And I'll tell you this, right? Steve Wilfong, who's very good at what he does, said that he feels like Ohio State has the slight edge over our Volunteers. He said by inches. But our insiders, who I feel like are the best in the industry, feel like we are in a tremendous spot. I keep on seeing that word thrown around, amongst our insiders. So I definitely trust them. They've pretty much been spot on since I've been following Tennessee football and all the insider notes and all that. And it's been for a very long time. So they don't miss very often. I would say that there's a couple of things that if you're looking at Tennessee versus Ohio State for David Sanders from a very objective point of view, maybe you look at, okay, how does Tennessee compare to Ohio State as far as developing talent? Well, Ohio State has been doing a great job of getting in blue chip caliber players. But if you look at their team heading into this season, the only real kind of question mark that anyone throws out there is their offensive line. So I would say that if you look at the way that Tennessee is developing the offensive line talent versus Ohio State, we're doing a much better job there, or maybe not a much better job, but we're definitely doing a better job there. So I would give Tennessee a slight edge right there. NIL is something that a lot of folks have thrown around as being a big deal for David Sanders. Obviously, it's going to be for all these blue chip caliber players. I don't think that it's as big of a deal as Ohio State fans have already started to try to make it out to be. They've already said, well, it sounds like Tennessee is throwing out quarterback money to David Sanders, but they've also come back and said, hey, look, we're willing to match whatever Tennessee is going to put up, but Tennessee is also willing to go that extra mile. I just feel like he's a guy that the staff really, really wants. Been in on him since he was a true freshman, and I don't think that they're going to, go away lightly. I think that they're going to fight, scratch, and claw, all that to try to get David Sanders in this class. Something else that I will throw out there is that David Sanders was recruiting GMAC before GMAC was committed to our Volunteers. That should tell you a lot about where he's at. Also, whenever you look at any player that commits to Tennessee, one of the first people that you see commented on there with those oranges is David Sanders. So I feel like he's pretty much all in. The last thing, and I think this is the biggest one that not too many insiders and experts are talking about on a national scale, and that is that his family wants to, go to a place that they can travel to pretty easily on Saturdays. David Sanders has been to the University of Tennessee 4 times, and he's been to Ohio State 3 times. And one of those visits to Tennessee, he got to be a student athlete, see what the day-to-day would be like. And every time he comes, he's trying to see how does that drive look for him. So I think that he could be a guy that maybe is silently committed to our Volunteers. But obviously with us having more than a month to go, how does everything play out between now and then? It's really no telling, but I feel very, very good about David Sanders. I would say that I probably feel the most confident that he's going to be a Vol in the 2025 class. Maybe outside of the next player, which is Travis Smith. And we know that Travis Smith has got like a crystal ball or an RPM from a UGA insider to our Volunteers. That should make you feel really good. Now, he's set to announce on July the 13th. That's his birthday. That's coming up, I believe, this Saturday. We will be going live for that. I hope that everyone will join us. I feel great about where we're at. And I felt great since I heard him say, well, I want to be able to get out of the state. There's a lot of pressure to stay in state. This is us versus UGA, by the way. He said, I want to talk to a guy like Mike Matthews. Mike Matthews was his player host on his official visit. Once I heard that, once that correlation was made, I said, I feel really good about our odds to win him because I see what his mindset is. It's going to be very similar to what Mike Matthews was. And Mike Matthews might have had UGA in his final 3, but I don't think that they were ever a real player. That's just my opinion. There's some players, and y'all know that us on this channel, born and raised in Georgia, and you can kind of tell the ones that are probably going to be going on to Georgia versus the ones that will go to some different programs. I'll call them more of those real dog programs. That's us, LSU, and Auburn. Doesn't matter what their roster looks like on paper. They're going to fight, scratch, and claw. They're going to play like dogs. And I feel like Travis Smith is one of those types of players. And for some reason, it just resonates a little bit more going to those programs with players from the state of Georgia. So that's something, I'm just throwing it out there. Y'all keep a very close eye out on that. Whenever you see players from the state of Georgia going to those programs, they usually have a ton of success. And it's just because they're cut from a different cloth. But Also, I mean, UGA would not be a spot that you would really want to go to if you play wide receiver. They're not going to use him as well as we are. So I think that we're in a great spot with him. And I would expect fully on July the 13th for him to be committing to our Volunteers. The next player is going to be Shady Hayward. He's a 4-star safety. He's also from Georgia, but he's from South Georgia. This one, I mean, you could almost call it a toss-up. I feel pretty confident about him, and I felt that way since he came up, on his first unofficial visits. You could just tell that he really liked Tennessee. Maybe as of late, he's been, kind of trying to create some suspense amongst everyone that's going to be viewing him commit on July the 27th. But I think that we are in a great spot right here. That would be huge. I think, it's down between us, South Carolina, and Florida. We talked about a whole lot. That's going to be a really, really big one. But I think, again, that we're in a great spot with him. Now, the next player is going to be Jaden Pilati. And we have seen a couple of either crystal balls or RPMs. I could think of one RPM from Chad Simmons over there at On3. He gave 60% odds for Jaden to flip to our Volunteers over UGA. Now, Jaden's been committed to UGA for a long time, grew up as a UGA fan. His dad is from the Athens area. But I will tell y'all this, it's like I've told y'all before, Tennessee's in a really good position. I think that Chad Simmons did a good job of giving a professional take, not going too far over the top and saying that it's a slam dunk that Jaden will be flipping from UGA to Tennessee. 60% for me is a really good take, on his part. Now, for me, I would say that I'm a little bit higher. I feel like mine is a little bit higher than that 60%. I will not give a number right here, but I think that Tennessee is in a really good spot. We just have to close out on this one. We've heard from some of our own insiders that Jaden might be trying to make his flip before the season starts. So that would be before the end of this month. Okay, I would say that since school starts up there at Buford High School on August the 2nd, maybe definitely towards the end of the month. That does make sense to me. But that's not set in stone. And even after he does, or if he does flip, we have to take this all the way to signing day. I just don't think that it's going to be done by the end of this month. Not fully, but that would be huge for the momentum of this program. He's a great linebacker. We've talked about him being able to play on all three levels, but he's exactly what Coach Inge wants. It will be good. I feel like for Coach Inge's confidence coming into the SEC, can he recruit with the big dogs, with the big boys? And I think that we will for sure get one of these two linebackers. Hopefully we can get both. Either it's going to be Jaden Pilati or it's going to be Christian Gass. And Christian Gass is another 4-star linebacker from Georgia. We're also pretty much fighting versus Georgia to land him. Now, he's set to announce on July the 20th. And our insiders feel as good as they could feel about him coming on home to Tennessee over UGA. I feel the same way. I don't feel as confident with him as I do with Jaden, but I still feel very confident. Again, it would be huge to be able to land both of these players. He's very versatile. I think that he could play Leo for us, or he could just be like a traditional inside of the box, sort of a linebacker that plays sideline to sideline. Also going to be very good in coverage. Again, very similar to Jaden Pilati. Now, the next player is going to be Onis Conanbanny. This is the last player that we are expecting to commit to our Volunteers. 4-star cornerback. And our insiders and experts feel great about this one. I don't know if he's set an announcement date just yet, but I will say this. I feel good about where we are going to end up at with Onis Conanbanny, especially if he's going to be announcing sooner rather than later. The later that this thing goes, the more that I would start to lose some confidence, because it's us, it's Florida State, and it's North Carolina. He's from Columbia, South Carolina. I think he might be originally from like London or something like that. I'm not quite sure on that, but he's everything that we need in a cornerback prospect. Let's move on over to the players that are possible commitments. Josh Petty, we're thinking that he's going to be announcing by the end of this month. I think that he's on a trip to Holland or Poland or something like that. But after that, we are expecting for him to be choosing a school. Right now, it's us, Florida State, and Georgia Tech. I would say that I feel maybe about 70% he's probably going to be going on to Florida State because his sister goes there. And I would give Tennessee about 20%, and then I would give Georgia Tech 10%. He is from Georgia, grew up as a Tennessee fan. We'll see what happens there. I know that the business school is really important to him. So how does all those things kind of play into it? But I mean, I think that Tennessee does have a chance to maybe be able to close out on him. That would be huge, obviously, if we want this class to end up as a top 5 class overall. And I will just kind of throw this out there for everyone. I feel like this class can and will finish top 10 once it's all said and done. Now, the next player is going to be Juan Gasson. He's set to announce August the 2nd. He's a 4-star offensive tackle. He's teammates with Travis Smith down there at Westlake High School. I think still that Oregon is probably the team to beat. Everyone's talking about UGA, but he's very quiet, keeping things close to the vest. But I think that it's Oregon. And I think that Tennessee and UGA might kind of be neck and neck. Tennessee might be that third team, But I really would not be surprised if Tennessee is that second team, just because he's not saying a whole lot. Sometimes people will just assume that these players that are in state and high caliber are just going to be going on to UGA. But like I told y'all before, a lot of times the players in the metro Atlanta area don't really always want to go to UGA, right? Like there's a reason for that. Usually it's the players that are more from like a country type of an area that you'll see will want to go to UGA. But the ones that, are kind of in that metro area, especially just because Atlanta is such a transient city. Like you're not so much locked in to all the Georgia stuff as you would be in other states typically. So that's just how I feel about it. But obviously that would be huge if we could add him to this class. The next player is going to be DJ Miller, 3-star wide receiver. I don't know where he's at as far as an announcement date, who he's leaning towards, but he's one that I would say that if we don't get Travis Smith, we're all in for him. I would like to see us get both of them because they're both kind of like that bigger body type of a wide receiver. And then on to the next one, Shakai Mills. Not like we kind of touched on before, Auburn, Ole Miss for him. Don't know when he's set to announce. Probably outside in shot. But the next player, 3-star athlete, Dwayne Morris. Still don't really know how to say his name properly, but he is committed currently to USC, supposed to be visiting our Volunteers at the end of this month. Would not be surprised at the end of the month if he does not flip. Would be more of that kind of like scat back, sort of a running back if he does commit here and we want for him to play running back, but he could play a multitude of other positions. So a whole lot of versatility right there. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank y'all so much for sticking all the way to the end. Please let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comments section. And as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.